Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hi, it's Joanna Hunter here for a very special episode of Into the LightWeb podcast. And on my couch today, I have got my best friend and fellow medium, Paulyne Brown. Hello, Paulyne. Come and say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. So nice to be here.
So what we thought in this episode is we would do something a little bit different. We talk about the gifts of spirit. And that is literally how we met, through spirit.
Yeah.
So we met at what we call Hogwarts for Mediums, which was a mediumship school to learn to expand our mediumship.
Yeah.
So that's where we met. Tell us a little bit about your journey with your mediumship and your spiritual gifts.
Yeah, well, I suppose mine goes quite a way back, and I only really found that initially after going to Hogwarts. It started way back in my early childhood, whereas many mediums would connect that as well. They had things that they didn't know. It was a place where, you know, you were going to get some answers from things from which didn't really make much sense when you were a child, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, getting that pillover and going, is there a boogeyman there? Let that boogeyman go away. When in actual fact, it was maybe something much more, we were aware of things. That's what I'm saying. I was very aware as a child.
Like an awareness.
Yes, there was awareness. And even though for me, my journey started off in Hogwarts due to the fact of, my daughter had some experiences as a child. And this kind of came to light where she was actually seeing things when she was from about 6 years of age. So around that stage, I thought, right, you know, what's this about? I need to sort of investigate it. For me personally, I spoke to another psychic medium, and they said, you know, you have this gift that's dormant, you know, it's lying in there, and you really need to investigate. And what seems to be something that has been handed down from generation to generation, and that sort of kind of ignited my interest, my curiosity to go and investigate. But it has been there for a very long time. Yeah, I think mine's been very much the same. You know, like there was always something there, but like life just kind of got in the way. Yeah, and there's also, I think, you know, looking back, you know, now that I've managed to put the jigsaw together as such, looking back, I sort of see it as, you know, you want to be accepted in a, you know, you're growing up and these things are happening, and you sort of go, oh, better not tell mom. You know, I had a visit from somebody last night, and, you know, you get the old, oh, you know, really? And you're like, yeah. But then, you know, I always wondered as well whether you were sort of saying things like to your parents, but you were always wondering at the same time whether, you know, my mother was taking it on board, whether these things actually had happened to her. But then when you're not getting the same response back, you sort of keep the secrets to yourself. Yes, I think so. Secrets. And I think also as well, like the minute that as a young child, you begin to notice that maybe you're different to other people, you try and hide that piece that's different, like majorly hide it. You want to fit in. And I think that's a huge thing, is that many people try really, really hard to fit in. Of course, that didn't work out too well for us. No. And, you know, it's so nice. You know, I didn't see this as a gift. I'm so blessed and so lucky to have it, because it's helped many. And I feel that, you know, I have used it in the proper way to use it. But, you know, looking back at a lot of going back to that childhood, and as you say, we like who we are now, but we're different, and that's more acceptable. But in those days, it was I'm not gonna say it was plain sailing. There was minutes of where you would have went, did I make that happen? I mean, because I would have had visions of things that were up ahead. And then I had that they would have, and then you think, gosh, as a kid, you'd be like, did I make that happen? Was that me? Was that, and you've nobody to share that experience with,
Yeah, it can be very isolating with a spiritual gift as a young child. And especially if you've got people around you who don't really seem to get it or understand. So you've got really nowhere to talk these things through and stuff like that. But we both felt like there was something there inside of us. So we end up with this weird week in what we call Hogwarts for Mediums, which is the world famous Arthur Findlay College in London. And we're green ass, and we know nobody because we're Johnny no mates there when we arrive. And because we're almost kind of like hiding that we're doing this in the first place type thing, from regular folk.
I know.
So we get there, and we end up in a room next door to each other. Yes. And which was really cool. But what was really amazing is just being in that immersive environment for a whole week of being surrounded by other people who have questioned their sanity in normal society, and suddenly there you all are, all of you can do this thing, which we weren't quite clear on what it was, but we were all very aware that we had this awareness of spirit. And it was like just being in this bubble of love, of just really realizing like, oh, I'm not as weird as I thought I was, and other people can do this. And in that world, it felt almost normal.
Exactly. And just the way you just even talking about it, it's just taking me back to that first moment we met, because my awareness was, it sounds bizarre, but I just went, I'm home. It was like, I've come home. That's and and it's like when we say mediumship, and we talk about the spirit transitioning into if I can find my words here, just into that spirit realm. It's like where we would sort of say they have returned home. To me, being in that environment felt like I was with a family, a unit, a home. It was just this instant connection. And we ended up on this like really kind of like this really weird thing happened to us, because we ended up during the week that you're there, you have to pick a kind of breakfast table. And once you pick that table, that's the table that you sit at through the whole week for all your meals. And we picked this table, and of course we end up sitting at that table next to each other, or on that table, but everybody on that table, we just clicked. And it was just like family. And these were total strangers, and they were from all over the world. There were literally, one girl was from Spain, Paulyne was from Ireland, I was from Scotland. There was several people from America. There was another one from Southern Ireland. It was just like, we just connected on such a deep level. And that week just shifted everything for me. And for me, it made me realize that things that I had been not really willing to own, should I say, the things that I've not been willing to own, like my spiritual gifts and things like that, it was like in that safe environment of everybody kind of being the same as me, I was able to own those gifts to a bigger level. I think for me, even though I was there in a search, I thought for my daughter, it was like a release of, there was that sigh of, is this possible that I found where I fit? Yes. That sounds very bizarre in itself, but it just fits. And also that sheer relief that you're not
crazy, you know, like that other people are experiencing the world as you've experienced it. That was huge for me, to see all these other people that were just experiencing the world as me.
You know, I mean, as I said, my like I would have got, oh look, you know, no more Scooby-Doo for you. You know, you're talking about ghosts and stuff, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. But for me, it was just finding that family and finding that unit, and knowing that these ghosts were actual human souls, discarnate souls, and just that understanding. I mean, it felt like, I know we sort of laugh when we say it's Hogwarts, but there was just actually
it was like that scene out of Harry Potter, though, like when Dumbledore arrives and he's like living under the stairs, and they say like, oh, you're a wizard, Harry. It was like that moment of like, oh, you're a medium, Joanna. I'm like, oh my God, oh, it just all makes sense now.
Yeah. How long has it taken? I know a lot of people said that way, oh, you know, how long has it taken you to get here, because you should have been here and on with your, you know, your life's purpose so long, and you're like, what? Is this for real? But yeah, it was a great experience, but it was like the start of a journey. And that experience, massive. It was a great experience in itself. And yes, you know what, actually that table, that group of people, I still know to this day.
Yeah, we still keep in contact. It was amazing. And like they were definitely like, we met our soul family on that week. So sorry, well, no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and yes, and I mean, we've kept in contact throughout our life. Maybe not all constantly, but you know, there's been some contact of our whereabouts or whatever. But most of all, well, it was my first time really accepting who I am and accepting spirit into my life as the norm, should I say, for me.
Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly what it was. It was this level of acceptance, of just accepting who you are. And I think that that's one of the greatest gifts that we can give ourselves, is just accepting who we are, the warts and all version. And if that happens to be that you talk to spirit, or you have an awareness of spirit, that's part of that self-acceptance, and accepting that there's such a tremendous power in that. And it released something inside me that allowed me to go on to create the life that I've created, and you know, and just release something powerful in me. But it was, as you said, the start of a journey.
It's the start of a journey. It was an experience, but it was the start of a journey.
Totally. So as we started that journey and exploring our gifts, and you know, basically you know, starting to explore our gifts and starting to work with our mediumship a lot more and things like that. I remember thinking you were very, very brave, because you decided that you were going to start just going out there and doing mediumship jams. And I was like, what now? You know?
Well, I'm gonna have to own it. I felt like I was dragged out there. I went out a bit kicking and screaming a little bit. I was just, you know, in that Hogwarts, it was like home, and it was like a bit of a bubble for, and you were like, this is okay, this feels comfortable. And then it was like, okay, when you left that place, it was like, wow, I'm back in the real world with the real people. But hey, how can I shut this down? I can't. I'd started something and I wanted to, and then the next thing I knew was those other mediums, and obviously you go to sit in a circle. Obviously it's not straightforward as just leaving Hogwarts, as we keep us Stansted. We should really call it what it is, shouldn't we? This is terrible.
No, it's Hogwarts.
But when we left there, the Arthur Findlay College, when we left there, I suppose really you have to sit. I mean, it took time. It wasn't like something, but not for me. For some reason, I don't know. I just had these exceptional mediums out there who just kind of said, right, we need somebody. And the next thing I knew, I was thrown straight. It was like, do or die. That was it. And I thought, wow. And, you know, I did. I got out there, and it just seemed to just be there, and it just came. And again, I put my hand to my heart, and I'll say, there was times where I could have honestly dropped just dropped on a stage and went, really? What's going to happen?
Could have joined them over in the spirit world.
Totally,
yeah.
totally. I was going to be the next one over. I always say that actually when I'm on stage. I always say, oh my goodness, it won't be long before I'm with these guys by the time I'm finished with the audience.
I know, because it's a weird thing when you're actually working as a medium. Somebody once asked me, what's it like connecting with spirit on a platform? And I thought, well, if you do platform mediumship, if you're listening to this and you're like, what are they talking about? It's like you have an audience and then you have a medium on a stage, and then the medium connects to people's spirit families and then gives messages to the audience. And so, what's that like to make that connection? And I remember describing the image that I got in my head was, imagine that on this stage is a seat, and that the seat is invisible and you can't see it, nor can you feel it, but you've just got to trust that as you sit your bottom down, it's going to catch you and hold you, and you're not going to end up like a fool on the floor. And I remember thinking, that's what it's like to do platform mediumship. Just absolutely terrifying to start with, but it teaches you, the gift of that for me has taught me this next level of trust, of really trusting spirit, because I've got this audience that's completely unknown to me, and I'm standing on the platform and I'm like there on a wing and a prayer. I'm like, please just bring something through. And then and there's this weird thing that happens in your head. You're like, is this all in my head? Did I make this up? And then you've got to be so brave to say, well, I have a lady here. She's this, she's there. Here's how she passed, or here's how this went, or this is how this happened. And as you do that, nobody's more surprised than me when the audience goes, I can totally take all of that. And I'm like, oh my God, so I'm not actually completely insane.
No. I know, and especially I always say to this, Joanna, of me, like geographically I'm
challenged. Shall we just say challenged?
Challenged. So it's a very good way of putting that. But see, when I saw the information at times, it blows me away. And it's not all about the evidence, by the way, of what you give from the spirit world. It's about bringing the presence of that person through, and that connection to that loved one who's still here. That's the bit that really moves me. See, when you have that blending from the spirit, and in your auric field and in your own, and you're touching that soul, you have that soul to soul connection. I mean, it just moves the whole room. It's not you're not, I just remember, you're not in that awareness yourself. You're just it's just amazing. It's just a great cocktail. I have to say it's the best cocktail ever. Wouldn't I have to bring it back to an alcohol spirit? But that's just me. But yeah, when you get information like, Joanna knows there, like places, mind-blowing stuff, you would sort of say, places, dresses or whatever, and you say to yourself, wow, never been there. Where is that in the map? And you go, oh well, but as long as it's all taken, you're like, it blows your mind. It does.
And I think one of the most impressive things that I've seen from you is when you connected with somebody's family member and they sung you a song, and you were able to sing the song that you had never heard. You didn't know the tune, you didn't know the lyrics or anything, and it was coming through you from the spirit world. And the person that was receiving that message, they just burst into tears, and they said that was her song. That was her song. That was the song that she sang all the time, and that we played it at the funeral. That was her song, and it was like, it's these little things that, for me, these moments in time of when you make that connection with the divine in that such a way that I feel so very, very small as a human being, but it's a nice smallness. It's that smallness of when you're in an adult's arms as a child and you're being loved and taken care of. It's that smallness that I feel, and suddenly I think my problems shrink as well with that smallness, and I feel oh, maybe like all my little dramas and all my little day-to-day stuff is not such a big deal if spirit can do this. If you know, if our loved ones carry on, maybe my day-to-day, it's like it shifts my perspective. Am I making any sense?
No,
I'm not making any sense.
No, you're making loads of sense. No, what I'm saying, you've just taken me to, you know, it's like being within that, you know, when you're doing platform mediumship, you're on a stage, you've got an audience. You're maybe in a time frame of maybe a couple of hours of being with quite a numerous amount of people in that room, and you're trying to connect to a discarnate soul and bringing back that loved one and that connection to that audience. And again, it's a bit, I know it's a bit bizarre saying again, but it's like being in Stansted, you know, you're back with the family, you're back in the unit. That feeling that I have there just for those few hours comes flooding back in again, and you feel like we're all family. And it's like, I would always say to my audience, you know, if I'm talking and there's some bit of information coming through, and I'd be sort of saying, listen, we're family now, we're sisters, brothers and sisters, we can share these secrets, you know, we can, you know, let's do this together as a unit. There's that feeling again for that
of oneness. It's like it creates that oneness, doesn't it? That connection to source.
We're all not so different after all.
No. You know? And when you hear some of the stories that come through, because I mean, obviously we're standing on that platform, we know nothing about our audience. Very often we don't know anything about the audience whatsoever. And so as their spirit families are coming through, they're sharing like parts of these people's lives, right? And you start to realize you're not that different from everybody else. You're not that, you know, like I might, you know, talk to dead people, but I'm not that different. You know, and it's that connection of that. I think that Source has this beautiful power of bringing this connection in, and it connects us back into that oneness, and we start to forget things like judgments and anxieties, and your problems shrink down to mini, and suddenly you shrink down to mini, but not in a horrible way, not in a you're playing small way. It's in a, oh well, what was I so worried about? The vastness of the universe, and here I'm getting bent out of shape, or somebody took my parking place or something, and suddenly you're like, oh, I can let that go. It's like I feel like when I connect with spirit in that way, I can really let go. So we worked together for quite some time. So obviously Paulyne lives in Northern Ireland and I live in Scotland. So we would arrange, like I would come over to Ireland and do things and do mediumship downs there with Paulyne, and Paulyne would come over here and do downs over here and things like that. But then I feel like Spirit had kind of like other plans for me.
Yeah.
And then I had to ruin a good thing.
Oh, wow.
But
it's a great thing.
But it was a great thing. But at the same time, like I really felt so called to helping spiritual entrepreneurs and moving in that direction, and really moving more in the direction of the coaching and working with my spirit team to convey the wisdom of spirit. Whereas your love has always been in the mediumship, and your mediumship has sort of deepened as well into like things like physical and trance and stuff like that. That's been one of your big interests, which we've always joked about, is because Paulyne's a real kind of, I believe it when I see it girl. So I always think like she loves the physical mediumship, where basically physical mediumship is where everyone in the room can see it.
Everyone can see.
So she's not happy until everyone in the room can see it.
Well, I've sat with a couple of great physical mediums, and I have seen it. And yes, you know, I mean, people would say, is it parlor tricks or whatever? Listen, guys, I am the most skeptic person out there, and I would say to anybody, whoever you go to any psychic meeting, be totally skeptic. Do not let your guard down at any time.
I would agree, because
you know, it's not that they're there to prove things. Well, they are there to prove too that there's life after death.
Yeah.
But there's also the fact of, you know, you've got to, you've got to be leaving there with the feeling of that, not only to prove that life, that medium or that psychic has given you and comfort you and maybe guided you in some, well, you know, uplifted you is the word I'm looking for, really uplifted you. You should be coming away feeling uplifted from it.
Yes.
From it. But physical mediumship's just when you were saying about the physical aspect, seeing is believing. But when you get to my stage of mediumship and getting more comfortable, I have to see it to believe it. And I've sat with great physical mediums, and it hasn't been parlor tricks by any means. And I was left with upliftment, more how can I say,
connection to source, really.
Yeah, more kind of,
really, and it's like it's real.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've never left anywhere. I have heard various things, but I've never in my own time, you know. And I always say, you know, prove it, you know. And I have done, you know, I've tested, I've been in rooms, I've been in physical rooms where I've been asked to test boxes, test a room, make sure there's nothing in it, you know, and by the time you're leaving, there's like X amount of stuff in the room, like toys and flowers and like there's possibly no way that could get in and stuff. So yes, it's a word, it's a vast word there. So
absolutely,
it makes you think the magic that's out there.
Yes,
there is magic.
There is magic out there, and I think that's what it connects for me. You know, spirit is the source, and source is the source of magic.
Yeah.
And when you move into this world, you start to realize, I think, how little significance our physical shells have. That there is so much more.
Totally, absolutely. I mean, it's you start to really understand your own soul, your own spirit.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it's all well and good saying I'm a medium, you know, I can connect to this soul, this spirit, and I'm talking to Joanna, who's a lovely soul and has a lovely spirit, but you get to know who you are as well, because you're digging deep for that magic. I'm going to call it magic. Is that okay to call it magic?
Go for it.
There's
We're all about the magic.
Yeah, that divine magic, and you're just like going, how far can this really reach out? What is really deep in me that knows that I can touch this other unseen world, and what can that unseen world do with me to really touch and spread out, you know, and help or touch another soul? That's the bit that fascinates me. I just think, how far can it go? You know, so yeah, it's a vast, you know, it's such a vast spiritualism, you know, being into spiritualism and mediumship and all. It's a huge thing. I mean, trance mediumship.
There's so many different levels of mediumship, but then also as well, like what I do with channeling Skylar, that in itself is mediumship. And then, it seems so different to being on a platform giving messages from loved ones, you know, because it's bringing in philosophy, it's bringing in how to live better, how to navigate with your human life a lot better. And so spirit is this beautiful thing that's all encompassing. It covers so much. And yet we are, you know, and yet we can do tremendous healings. And I think that's one of the biggest things. So let's talk a little bit about the healing, because healing is also part of mediumship. So there's hands-on healing, or what I do, which is healing with a spoken word. But then there's the healing that comes from the connection to spirit. And I really believe that the connection to spirit can heal everything, like literally everything. I think it can solve all our problems really in the world. I don't know if you agree with that.
I do. And you know, not to kind of blow my own trumpet, but I'm going to blow my own trumpet.
Go for it.
Because I know this happened, and I did a mediumship dem one night, platform work that is, and I was kind of feeling very lethargic, very tired, but I don't know why, but I felt very, how do I say, overwhelmed with the presence of spirit. You know, I was like praying, I was going, oh gosh, I have to get up here now, so please give me the energy. So I was crying from my soul. I was crying from the depths of depths, so please get me through this. And I just remember standing up, and I remember hearing spirit saying that there was a lady in the audience, and spirit giving me the name, and the name was Eileen. I can remember it now. At the time I didn't, but you know, called out the name. But what spirit told me was, that this lady had very bad health, and that if I was to reach my hands out and touch, that they would send the power of healing through to her. Now, can you imagine me on platform doing something like that? I was freaked.
This is why it takes that next level of trust, right? To work with spirit in this way it takes this next level of trust, because what do you do in such a situation when you quote unquote don't see yourself as a healer, and the spirit is saying, put your hands on this person, we're going to send an energy through to help this woman that's in need,
and to go with the story. So obviously I brought through this information, and I could keep hearing spirits saying you need to reach out, and I just couldn't do it. It was like, no, it's like waking up, Paulyne, get on your feet here, which we do to spirit all the time. Our minds just come in and stop that natural flow. But to end the story, what actually was, after the audience came up and the lady came up, and she actually she was blind in one of her eyes was going blind. She had some sort of like tumor. Her name was Eileen. She took everything. She said, like, I was actually calling out for her. That's where it was coming. And I knew, and she was going through a very critical operation. And if I always sit and think, what if I had let spirit, if I had just lifted my hands out, what could have happened? Do you know? It's so there could have been such immense healing, not just from the word of an acknowledgement, the word of spirit. There would have been a real blending of soul to a soul, and a soul, 3 souls possibly, making that connection for the healing. And but we'll never know to that day. But it has reignite my passion and healing as well, totally and utterly. I'm reviewing everything now. I'm going back and reviewing, because mediumship just changes. You just evolve in mediumship. There's no set ways to it. And I mean, if you're a free spirited soul who is willing to keep going to the next level, to like Joanna, like you have went, and you've opened yourself up and went down a journey that you didn't know what was
had
ahead.
No idea what was going to be ahead on this journey.
It's been surprise and
all the way along.
But amazing that they've, spirit has gifted you amazingly, and you've done.
I mean, the $1 million experiment was just was that not the most insane thing?
Say no more, drop the mic.
I know, it was like the most insane thing ever.
Totally, and it just, and what you did was you just allowed and accepted and surrendered.
That's it.
And I think a word that I used to hate when I was doing mediumship
was surrender.
No, the word trust.
All right.
But so the word surrender is one of the words that I would say to anybody.
That was when I had a hard
surrender. Control is a terrible thing, isn't it?
Because I was kind of like this, and I didn't like the idea that I would somehow be giving up control and stuff. And then, but I think a lot of that comes to, I know I've covered this in the gift podcast before, but like the surrender is like, we don't know what we're surrendering to, but actually what we're surrendering to is a larger part of ourselves, spirit.
Totally. And allowing that transitional of blending and allowing the spirit and to free your own spirit.
Absolutely. And it's that piece of you that already knows, rather than your human that's trying to think and figure it out and sort it out in their smallness. Instead, when you surrender into that bigness of who you are, the truth of who you are, and that bigger energy. But of course, I was like Winston Churchill, we will fight you on the beaches, when it came to... I'm going to say something that's probably not allowed to be said on podcast. But I don't know, for some of you out there who have a way of chillaxing, some people like a wee glass of wine, some little spirits. I like a little spirits. Well, I used to like a little spirits. I can't now. But that feeling of just letting go, and when you have a little tipple, you just start to say what's on the tongue. You don't sort of, the brain is not engaging at times, and it's where you get up the next morning and you go, oh, here we go, we're going to get the postmortems now of what I done last night. But
what I'm trying to say is, when you're free and you just allow your mind to be free, you just give it. It just rolls, and you just sort of think, and the next morning you're going, oh, did I say that? Why? And like people go, but you were right. And you're sort of, because you hold back, and you just, I'm not advocating people to go out and be alcoholics just to connect to spirit, please don't. But what I'm trying to say is, we surrender when we're doing some people do it when they're doing yoga, or they're doing some way of switching off, swimming, whatever, and they connect to this thing, and then the next thing they want to meet somebody, and they go, do you know what, did such and such leave you such as, how did you know that? I don't know, it just popped into my head, that just like I was saying to you today, something about journey, and as I arrived, so there's things like that. I hope I made that a little bit sensible, but not advocating being an alcoholic now, seriously. This is the only water, just to prove.
So let's wrap this up a little bit.
Okay.
When you first started exploring your gifts, it's been a journey and a half.
Yes.
Right? It has been a journey. But if I was to ask you, has it been a journey that's been worth it, of really digging in? I think in a way, like, this journey is a journey of self-exploration in a way, right? And has that journey been worth it to you? Because I think a lot of people are afraid of this journey. They're maybe already have a slight awareness of spirit, but they're like, what if people think I'm totally weird, if I go further down this road? But for me, this journey has been 100% worth it. I like myself better today than I did from earlier versions of myself, because I know myself so much in such a deeper journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say you become stronger. Do you know what you become stronger to? Acceptance of the word no. I don't know how to explain that, but if it's like, no, that's not right, Paulyne, I just go, okay, move on. I'm not digesting, just being more open to being more, I suppose, really, how do you write?
Like rolling with life.
Yeah, and things aren't such a stickler, if you make sense. It makes you stronger, because you can take the no's, I think maybe is what I'm saying. You can take the bumps in life, and because you're sort of saying to yourself, well, I know deep down that there's more. I know that I'll get through this. There's a stronger faith, a stronger belief in something that it's may not be tangible, but you just know it's there, and it's supporting you, like you said. There's that having to trust that there's more, and just that deeper, it's that deep knowing from the core of you, your solar plexus. There's that, it just sits there in the seat of your soul, that that everything is either going to be right or it's not, and it's just there, and it's a gift, and it makes you a stronger person. It makes you feel that for others, that they too, don't get me wrong, I don't force actually on can I just say this, on my, I've just arrived today, as you know. Yes. sitting on
from Ireland.
Yes, sitting on the great sofa of the great Joanna Hunter .com. And I was speaking to this girl on the plane, and funny enough, we were just talking about spirit. I actually was sitting on the plane, and then I thought, she says, what do you do for a living? And it's like this, what do you say? Do you say I'm an ex-civil servant? Because I was. No, actually, I'm a medium for 20 odd years or more. So I still, to this day, go in the back of my head, do I tell them I'm a medium? It's like, where's the parachute? Because you're going to get pushed out of this plane any minute now, but yeah, there's still that little bit of hesitance, though I'm stronger, if that makes sense to say, So like I gave it to her and I said, well, actually, I'm a medium, I'm a psychic medium. Little did we find out, I was telling Joanna, we ended up, we're kind of related, which was even more bizarre. But that's another story for another day. That's a podcast on its own, probably.
That is a podcast on its own.
Yeah, but to be able to say who you are and to stand tall and stand proud and
yeah,
you know, it like, I mean, the girl did say to me, it's something, she says, God, psychics freak me out a little bit because they get to know everything and they get it right. It's scary. And I'm like, well, look, you know, to be honest with you, I don't go into your underwear drawer without your permission.
I know, but it's so funny, isn't it? Right? Because they're like, you get to know everything, like, and you're like, you try standing in my shoes.
I know. I'm like, hey, this is, you know, she's like, you know, oh, they get to know her. And
you're not the one speaking to dead people.
Well, actually, I mean, she was just lovely. I just felt like saying, well, if you feel that nervous about being in a psychic, obviously you've got something really deep to hide. And I'm thinking, you know, we're not that scary. You know, if you, we're not scary. You're not, if somebody's trying to do that, you're in the wrong place. You're with the wrong people. You know, and, you know, always know. And what I'd say to people out there, there's people out there who are genuine, who really genuinely want to help. But, you know, if you're in the right vibration and your soul calls it, you will be directed to those that will be able to help you and guide you on.
I think so. I think the biggest gift in this journey has been that self-trust and trusting.
Yeah, that great word that I never liked.
Yeah, that we never liked, but
it does work.
It does work. It does. I mean, you begin to trust more and things like that.
Yeah, it does work.
And that's what's going to really expand your spiritual evolution of your life, you know, is that trust, is that surrender to the larger part of yourself.
Yeah.
I think, you know, one of the biggest things that in my journey that's come through my journey that I feel is, you know, one of the biggest gifts is my community has come through my journey, which is beautiful because I have a community of people who are like me and who are spiritual and spiritually open. And I never feel odd or weird inside my communities, which is really beautiful. And I really love that. And so it's funny because I have no problem in owning what I do and who I am. But when I'm out in the sort of what I call the Muggle world, then it is that like that.
So it's like, the opposite reverse.
Yeah, it's like that loaded question if someone says, what do you do for a living? And I go, do I give them the full whammy or do I just like give them the tame PC version of like, I'm a spiritual life and business coach? And they're like, oh, that's nice. Or do you say, you know, I channel a divine consciousness? And
I find when it goes one or two ways, it's like, you know, coming out of the closet, as I was like, but it's one or two ways for me. It's not, I'm trying to, part of me is like, I don't want to scare these people in case they are scared or something. I don't know why. Or there's the fact of once you hit, I'm a psychic medium, it's like, the opposite normally is, God,
yeah,
could you tell me everything, please?
Yeah, can you tell me everything?
You know,
read me.
And they're very, very, and it's like, hey, look, you got to be off the clock sometimes, you know.
Yes.
You know, you got to be off the clock sometimes. So there's two ways to flip that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But it's not because it doesn't. But there's just that trepidation still there. I just say, hey,
yes,
I know I'm a medium. I enjoy what I do for the spirit world, and that's. You know, when I do it, I don't feel like I'm working, in fairness.
No, I just feel like I'm in the flow of something so much larger, bigger than myself, and that I'm held in this place of deep love and safety and just gorgeousness. And it is weird when you plug into that and then you unplug back and kind of go back to the normal world, and people can be quite harsh and judgy and things like that. And it's such a switch, I feel like. And I just feel, you know, my vision for my life and my vision for the world is like, what if we could just get everybody connected into source so that everybody could experience for themselves this deep love?
That's amazing. That would be just super amazing. I think the world is in need of it, great need of it.
Totally.
And I can honestly tell you, I would be on a buzz 24/7 with that. Don't you think?
It's just such a gorgeous energy to be in and to be immersed in, and where you feel this deep sense of belonging, and you are in tune and in sync with who you are.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you love what you do. I mean, the passion that you talk when you get on there and I see you, I listen to you in the background. I'm not one for communicating on the keys, but I just feel your passion, you know, and that just emanates through the media. So, you know, us as mediums, I mean, that passion has to emanate through, and that's what brings your community to you. I mean, it's the people in that community, they're on that vibration, as you would call it.
Absolutely, yes.
And you're drawn to you, and it's that whole you know, talk, that whole passion of wanting to help, and that's what mediums, psychics, healers, you know, that's what we're here to do. You know, we're here to make something bigger than I feel like what we're sitting in.
Yeah, we're here to make the world a better place, and we're here to usher in that connection that everybody has. You know, one of the biggest things that blows me away time and time again, I've had this since I was, you know, since ever when I can remember, and Paulyne's had this since childhood. But you know what? Everybody has this connection. And the funny thing is that when you speak to society and you speak to people out there, lots of people start to tell stories of when they remember as a child that they had an imaginary friend, and they start to say, well, and then they remember like little spiritual incidences and things like that. And so I really feel like it's in everybody's life. It isn't like that we are the chosen ones and we get to communicate with spirit. Like, the thing that I love about this is that everybody has this gift of being able to communicate with spirit and have a deep personal relationship with source.
I'm back to a little bit of storytelling, but I remember this, you just popped into my head there. I remember meeting this girl. I won't say the names or where it was, but it was in like a spiritual place, whatever. And she was in tears. I met her in a hallway, and I was like, are you okay? Which a natural fellow person soul would do. Are you okay? And she said, I've just been told that I will never be able to connect properly to spirit. And I was like, what? And she says, like, I mean, I've just been told, and how am I ever going to, you know, this is why all I've ever wanted to do is connect. And my heart just sank to the ground. I was like, how do I comfort this young person who's been just told that she can't connect? And I'm like, you know, I said, you know, we are born with senses. We have 5 senses, but God gave us a 6th sense as well.
Which is multiple senses in one.
Absolutely. And whether we choose to look deep inside and touch that is up to that individual person. And I said to her, you know, don't ever let anybody say that you cannot connect to something. I said, it's there, it's in your path, it's if it's for you. You know, you've just got to really look inside you and feel inside you, and spirit will not disappoint, you know. And it was just to see that a fellow human person would do that, and I was like, no, that doesn't happen, because we're all born with it, you know. It's not for any one person to say that's mine, you know, and it's not going to happen to you.
No, exactly.
You know, we have not to bring the note down, but you know,
completely. And I think this is it. And I mean, the lesson for her in that was her own sovereignty, isn't it? Because she was willing to outsource her power and listen to a complete stranger when she was there for a reason. She knew she was there for a reason. She could feel spirit already, but she was doubting that.
Yeah.
And so, beautiful lesson in sovereignty.
Absolutely. So, you know, all the things that you teach, you know, in you know, your LightWeb and whatever, it's all connected to to the source, to the soul, to the light, to the healing of oneself, to the collective consciousness that we all are one.
Yes.
And that all connects to the spirit realm. because they're all one, you know, so we're connected everywhere, and it's whether we choose to reignite that sixth sense. You know, I think there's fabulous healers out there, fabulous mediums out there that maybe you're not in the media sense,
haven't even tickled the surface yet on that as well.
And you know what, I'd be honored if somebody just wants to come up and just connect for me, but I'd be a bit more open to it now. I wouldn't suggest anybody go out on the street and just give it a go to Joe Blogs. Please don't do that there. Do that. I'm not getting used to this podcast now, you know, after watching my cues, but yeah,
I think that's a beautiful place to finish up on, in that love and that connection of everything. So I hope that you've enjoyed a slightly different podcast episode where I actually have a guest on the couch with me in my house, which is amazing. And I hope this has maybe opened up you exploring your spiritual gifts to a deeper level. We'll pop Paulyne's details in the show notes afterwards. And of course, my details will be there as well. Thank you so much for joining us on the Into the LightWeb podcast. Thank you, Paulyne.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thanks, Joanna, for having me. And hello to all your listeners out there, and have a blessed day.